here in Week 10 on iRacing Live and RaceSpot TV for Friday Night Primetime. The Blancpain Sprint Series moves to the northern borders of Canada, where we come to the Montreal, a very tight circuit used for years, a very historical circuit named after the late, great Gilles Villeneuve. Join us in just a few moments' time as action gets underway shortly. Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as coverage begins for round number 10 of the Blancpain Sprint Series from Canada. It's Montreal, not really a street circuit, but it feels like it as the walls are close. Just going to be me today, Randy Chinneth. He will be working the cameras because as it turns out, Scott Woodwest is forgetful and totally forgot about Friday Night Primetime. Qualifying currently underway, and right now it is actually Core Sim Racing taking command of the qualifying grid. Frederick Rasmussen currently has the pole with 31.6. Santeri Kalunki, his teammate, currently has the outside of the front row locked in with a 32.1. So a full half second is what Frederick Rasmussen has over the rest of the field. There are some other big names in here, though. Isaac Price, another Core Sim Racing driver, he's actually coming across the stripe now, and he's going to go to a 31.7, so it's 4/10 off Frederick Rasmussen, but he takes the second spot away from Santeri Kalunki, but still Core Sim Racing holding out the front row of your grid as we currently sit. Isaac Price has another hot lap to run. Frederick Rasmussen is actually done. Ricardo Castelletto currently in third, the final driver in that 31-second bracket with a 31.8. Again, another driver who has another about half lap or so to go. Now let's talk about this circuit at Oulton Park. Of course, from what we saw last week, a very tight circuit, not a lot of places to pass, and Montreal somewhat similar in some ways, but you have one notable exception with that long back straightaway. And as you watch, we're going to see a lot of McLarens, and the reason for that is because of that back straightaway. There's not a lot of handling here at this circuit, and the best opportunity to pass is down that long back straightaway and into that wall of champions chicane. And because of that, you want a car with a lot of top end. A lot of people choosing that British car option of that McLaren MP4 12C GT3 for his top end advantage. People who are currently out there on track, Isaac Price going down that long back straightaway I just talked about into that wall of champions chicane in the final corner, and let's see if he can maybe improve over Frederick Rasmussen and take the pole away. Hard onto the brakes in that final chicane. Actually, a little bit loose as he turns in. He has that McLaren really trimmed out as he gets very close to the wall of champions. That's where the speed is found, and straight lining it to the start-finish line. Let's see what this time is going to be. It's going to be a 31.8, so actually no improvement. And at this moment, it looks like Freddie has the pole locked in. Ricardo Castelletto currently still on a lap. Philip Ellis as well. He's working himself through the second half of the circuit in his Audi R8. And Jose Maria Lopez, the World Touring Car Champion, is actually coming down the back straightaway here as well. And let's see what he's able to do in his Vortex Sim Racing McLaren. Hard on the brakes. Quick right, quick left, being careful over the curves, getting very close to that wall of champions. And let's see if he can improve. He actually has not scored a time yet. This is his second lap, so if he doesn't score one now, you want to actually have a qualifying time. It comes across at 32.8. good for 9th on the grid. After that, let's see. Jan Kuipers is out there currently on a lap. Going through right now, I believe that's the second chicane. Yes, it is. So he still has a decent ways to go here. Going through that long right-hander that actually makes this track a lot tighter than it actually might feel. Quick left and right at turns number 6 and 7 as he gets ready to go under the bridge here. And again, coming up to another chicane, this one a quick right and left. You have to be a little bit careful with the curbs here at this racetrack. Take a little bit too much of them and, well, they can bite you. And especially in this McLaren, it's a little bit uneasy. You need to be somewhat careful over them, especially due to the fact that people are going to have these cars trimmed out to the max in terms of aerodynamics. Jan coming up to the tight hairpin. Patrick Morrow is out on track, but his laps are finished. Ricardo Castelletto coming down now under the bridge here, similar part of the track as Jan Kuipers is at, though Jan is on that back straightaway and Jan is bailing out a lap. He's not improving. Ricardo Castelletto is coming down under the Octane Racing Bridge, under the Dodge Dart Bridge, and into turn number 10, the tight hairpin here at Montreal. One of the best passing opportunities out there on the racetrack, and by the looks of it, Ricardo's going to bail out on his lap. Actually, take that back. Qualifying has finished, so Ricardo will not improve. So let's go down your starting grid here at Montreal. On pole, Core Sim Racing have the front row locked out. Frederick Rasmussen, a 31.4. Isaac Price, their newer driver, a 31.79. So 4/10 is the gap from first to second. Ricardo Castelletto and Joni Takinen in third and fourth. Row number 2 with Santeri Kalunki and Jake Hewlett, row number 3. 3 Core Sim Racing drivers in amongst your top 5. Joni Häkkinen and Nito Nascimento round out the 4th row with Jose Maria Lopez and Craig Parks rounding out row number 5. Kiri Pekonen and Philip Ellis, row 6, with Xavier Sanchez and Zach Thomas, row number 7. Andres Rao and Marcus Lovett, row number 8, with Craig Kirkwood and Ivan Carmona, row number 9. Mika Ishuis and Lars Runke rounds out the top 20. Jan Kuipers and Jesus Saez, row number 11. Carlos Henrique Scalrasa and Thomas Gibson, row number 12. Antti Tiro and Santeri Kekkonen, row number 13, with row number 14 being Patrick Morrow and Andrew Rodriguez. Andrew did not get in a qualifying time. So it's going to be a difficult race then for these drivers out here. Again, like we said, not a lot of fast corners on this circuit. However, you do have that long back straightaway, which is actually going to make it difficult to really break away from the cars behind. Draft is going to be a major part of this race, and because of that, people are going to be running relatively low wing settings, especially due to the fact that not a lot of fast corners here. Actually, the fastest corner on the racetrack, I actually believe, is that final chicane. Talking about balance of performance, let's just buzz down the cars. 2 McLarens round out the front row, then the second row goes Ford GT and McLaren. The next row behind actually goes McLaren and then Ford again, and then again it just goes McLaren. A lot of McLarens and Fords, it seems like, amongst your top 10. Top BMW has actually put himself in the 10th position. That is Craig Parks in his Bushwing Racing BMW Z4. And let's see, where did the best Mercedes put himself? The best Mercedes seems to be Lars Reinke in that 20th spot. So the front engine cars, again, really not doing very well here as the drivers starting to get their cars in gear, and that pace car is rolling off down towards that final chicane. And we're going to be green here in just a few moments' time. Pace car won't actually be turning off the racetrack here. It's simply going to go straight, and when the flag goes green on this racetrack, the leaders will be through that final chicane. The tail end of the field will be just coming into it. So because of that, the field should get itself spread out relatively quickly. Pace car onto pit road, waiting on Fred Rasmussen to get the word from the starting stand. Waiting, still waiting. Fred's holding up for a while, and Fred goes. And it's a good jump from Fred Rasmussen as we're green here at Montreal. Isaac Price already coming under attack from Ricardo Castelletto behind as Frederick Rasmussen is clear. We have an incident down on the front straightaway already. This is Marcus Levitt's in the wall. Andrew Rodriguez is in the wall. One of our lone Mercedes, Antti Turo's in the wall and has gone into the pits. So this is something that can often happen here at Montreal due to starting in that final chicane. Incidents can happen. It's relatively easy. Let's see what happened here down towards this part of the field. Looks just like stacking up and people being over-aggressive as we're going to follow along with your leaders. Frederick Rasmussen now into corner number 6 and into number 7. Has a good gap from Isaac Price behind. Then it's Ricardo Castelletto, not far off of Isaac Price in 3rd. Joni Takinen's fallen a little bit off that Radical Sim Racing McLaren in 4th, and Jake Hewlett in his Bushwing Ford GT following close to Joni behind. Santeri Kalunki in 6th, following that Bushwing Ford GT very closely as well, was Nito Nascimento in 8th, starting to, you see that gap already forming from your top 7 or so to Nito Nascimento in 8th. Actually, I take that back, it's the top 6 that are already breaking away. We have contact in the hairpin, not sure who this was, I heard it though. Doesn't look like anyone spun around, doesn't look like any major incident, just a little bit of a little love tap if you go into the tight hairpin here. Down this long back straightaway for the first time. Fred Rasmussen into the braking zone already for the Wall of Champions of chicane. Quick right and a quick left, hopping the curb. Isaac Price following suit, as is Ricardo, Yoni, Jake, and Cinteri. Top 6 already broken away, showing impressive pace. Cinteri gets a good run out of that final chicane, and down this front straightaway they come. Hard on the brakes into corner number 1 goes Cinteri Kalunki, and moved that Core Sim Racing machine up into the 5th spot for now. He's very wide on the brakes. Actually very lucky to get that McLaren slowed down and not push wide into Jake. That was very, very tight. You see Jake, I think, flashing the brakes, saying that was a little over-eager. Nito Nascimento trying to close the gap to the cars in front of him. And actually, because of that move in corner number 1, look at the breakaway the top 4 has. Yoni Takkinen to Cinteri Kalunki is already a large gap because of that pass maneuver going into corner number 1. And Fred Rasmussen, out in the lead, continues to stretch the gap here as they go into corner number 8 and corners number 8 and 9 for the second time. Strategy on this racetrack is going to be as we always expect it. Fuel only, and if you can save gas, do so, because that can save you a good amount of time in the pit lane. However, with so many people choosing the McLaren, pit stops should be relatively well timed. You're unfortunately not gonna have that that benefit of having different cars having different fill rates. 14 in the 18, currently in a very close battle out there on the racetrack. That is Nito Nascimento and Jose Maria Lopez. They go down your long back straightaway here. 2 McLarens. Nito Nascimento's actually just got passed by Jose Maria Lopez, who's moved himself up into that 7th spot, hard on the brakes into that final chicane for the second time. And Nito Nascimento gets loose through that final chicane, and the field's going to stack up, and that's actually extraordinarily lucky that that didn't turn into a huge incident. That part of the racetrack with that much traffic, usually an incident spells disaster, but Nito Nascimento gets a little bit loose, just gets a little bit of a tap from a competitor behind, and everyone's able to follow suit. That should have been a situation where a number of those cars should have essentially received race-ending damage. So great driving by all involved there. Jose Maria Lopez now able to comfortably skip off into that 7th position. Joni Häkkinen behind in that Black Star Racing McLaren, trying to reel him in. Keeping track of the leaders up towards the front. Frederick Rasmussen's actually stretched out a very large gap over Isaac Price, his Core Sim Racing teammate, as they go into corners number 8 and 9. Gap at the line between Frederick and Isaac was 1.2 seconds, and I think it's grown since that lap happened. Ricardo Castrolado seems to have gotten himself a black flag. You see Joni Takkinen going through comfortably. Ricardo Castrolado was slow on the run in to that hairpin, so he's going to drop off to the 4th spot. Ricardo is someone who's shown great pace over the course of his championship, but often just falls a little short compared to someone like Fred Rasmussen. Joni Takkinen, though, currently your best running non-McLaren in 3rd place after Ricardo getting that slowdown. Cinteri Kalunki also closing in on the back of Ricardo Castrolado after that as well. Cross the stripe. Let's see what the margin is from 1st to 2nd. Frederick Rasmussen, a 32 flat, and Isaac Price did a 32.5, so another 4/10 goes the way of Frederick Rasmussen. That gaps out to 1.7 seconds. And get a replay of your starting incident here in just a couple of moments' time, where we saw a few cars get spun around, which is, as I've said, one of those things that can happen here at Montreal. The start's always awkward as you come through that Wall of Champions chicane. There's so many people going into the chicane that want to go, but they really can't if they're going to be patient. But a lot of times over-eagerness causes incidents here at Montreal. While that's happening, Ricardo Castrolado is coming under attack from Cinteri Kalunki behind as they go into corners number 8 and 9. We'll get that on your screen shortly. We're back live here on RaceSpot TV, and as you can see on screen, Ricardo has that orange Core Sim Racing McLaren all over his back bumper, and Ricardo's unfortunately not going to have too much of a draft as they go down this long back straightaway. Joni Takkinen stretched out the gap. Cinteri, though, right under the rear wing of that Radicals machine driven by Riccardo Castelletto, going down the long back straightaway here into corners number 12 and 13. Santieri doesn't close in that much in the draft, so hard on the brakes, quick right, quick left. And actually, looking at the lines, Riccardo's being much safer across the curves than a lot of his competition is. You see Santieri through that final chicane, hopping those big sausage curves. Riccardo stays off of him. Riccardo defending line into corner number 1. Santieri goes around the outside, trying this time, not quite able to get it done, but Riccardo's going to put that car around. I think a little over eager on the brakes, trying to overdrive that machine, and because of that, that mistake's going to drop him down to 6th position. Jose Maria Lopez is going to be just behind in 7th in that Vortex Sim Racing machine. So, Riccardo Castelletto, mistakes are really defining how his race is going to finish, I think, here today. That black flag earlier on that lap, and then, again, that quick little half spin going through corner number 2, trying to defend from Santieri Kalunki. You have to be perfect and flawless in races like this, at tracks like this, in straight to fields like this. Back up to the front. The gap continues to grow from OP Freddy to Isaac Price. 2 seconds is what it was across the line last time by as they go under the Dodge Dart Bridge and into the chicane, into the hairpin. Closest battle right now on the racetrack seems to be between Jake Hewlett and Riccardo Castelletto. Something's happened to Jose Maria Lopez. Did he get a black flag as well? I believe so. Doesn't look like he hit anything. Yeah, just over-eagerness through turns number 8 and 9, got himself a black flag penalty, so because of that, he drops down a spot, and all the pressure is suddenly taken off Riccardo Castelletto, and he can just put all the pressure onto Jake Hewlett as they go into the wall of champions chicane. Riccardo not quite good enough on the brakes, though, to pull alongside. Down the front straight, Jake able to stretch a gap over Riccardo Castelletto, and that's going to give him a little bit of breathing room. Luckily, these Ford GTs relatively quick in a straight line, so because of that, not quite easy prey for the McLaren. Not quite like coming up on a BMW or Audi or Mercedes would be for them. Into now the second chicane, corners number 3 and 4. Jake trying to stretch the gap through this part of the racetrack. The Ford should have the advantage here. Has a little bit more mechanical grip, but Riccardo's doing a good job to just hold station and maintain this gap. On the quick run now in the corners number 8 and 9, down this short little sort of middle straightaway here. You can make passes happen here if you're close, and Riccardo's going to eyeball the inside, but just harassing the mirrors of that number 9 Bushwink Racing Ford GT driven by Jake Hewlett as they go through the chicane at corners number 8 and 9, and Riccardo is very, very close. I think that Jake's going to have his hands full with that McLaren as they go onto the brakes in the corners number 12 and 13 this time around. Into the hairpin, you see Riccardo trying to straighten up the exit as much as he can. Jake's a little bit quicker through the middle of the hairpin, but Riccardo's getting the run off. And the speed advantage is already there for Riccardo Castelletto, already 2-3 miles an hour quicker than Jake Hewlett in that Ford GT. Riccardo's closing. He ducks out of the draft a little early, and again, just harassing the mirror. So that Ford GT actually has a good bit of top end, and he's able to hold off that McLaren down that back straightaway. Now again, down the start-finish line straight, into corner number 1. Is Riccardo going to dive up the inside? Yes, he is. To the left he goes, clipping that curb on the left, but just simply put, holding it too tight there. He had a little bit more room, both on entry and on exit. He could have tried to fight with Jake a little bit more, though, but I think Riccardo likely playing it safe after that original incident. Because of that quick little side-by-side maneuver, this 2-car train turns into a 4-car train. You have Jake Hewlett, Riccardo Castelletto, Joni Häkkinen, and Jose Maria Lopez, all in the same part of the racetrack. Out of corner number 7, into corners number 8 and 9 now, for the 7th time. Jake has actually done a good job, I think, to stretch the gap here a little bit on Riccardo. Gas a little bit larger than it was last time, and we saw that McLaren not quite able to draft up side by side with the Ford GT down this back straightaway here in Montreal, and, well, is Riccardo going to have his hands full with maybe that Black Star Racing machine of Joni Häkkinen, or is Joni going to come under attack from Jose Maria Lopez this time around? Out of the hairpin again, Jake continuing to stretch the gap, and actually the gap is stretching between Häkkinen and Lopez as well, so it's like we're going to be relatively calm for the 7th time around this racetrack. Keeping an eye on your leaders. Fredrik Asmussen continues to run away from Isaac Price. Isaac, though, is starting to fall back a little bit into Joni Täkkinen and Santeri Kulunki. Both Kulunki and Täkkinen took 2/10 out of Price that last time around, and it's only about a 1.7 second gap between second and third place out there on the racetrack. So Isaac not quite showing the pace of his core sim racing comrade of Frederick Rasmussen. He continues to just skip away with the lead here. Isaac through corner number 5, into corners number 6 and 7. A quick left and a quick right all over the curves at this part of the chicane. You don't use too much of them through the right-hander, but the left-hander you really want to straighten out. Under the bridge and into 8 and 9 they come. Isaac, I think, has stretched the gap a little bit this time around and over Joni Täkkinen and Santeri Kulunki behind. And Santeri wants to get a move done on that Glacier Racing 4 GT out in front of him. Course Sim Racing would love to have the entirety of the podium locked up amongst themselves. Through the hairpin they come. Isaac continuing to stretch the gap, and Santeri not quite close enough to really work that draft on that yellow Glacier Racing 4 GT out in front. Behind, the 4-car scrap continues. Jake Hewlett defends from Ricardo Castrolado, and Hakkinen and Jose Maria Lopez is much closer this time around as well. But Joni's going to have a bit of draft to go into down this long back straightaway, so because of that, Jose not able to pull alongside, but he's going to go for it. A big move on the brakes. That's a touring car move if I've ever seen one. Jose trying to get the move done side by side through the chicane, but Jose not quite able to get it done. Jose's flashing the lights at Joni Häkkinen, and I'm not sure why. That was a very overeager move there by Jose, and actually, while that happened, Santeri tried to get past, Ricardo got past Jake Hewlett as well. We had 2 passes on the same part of the racetrack. Jose is getting held up by Joni Häkkinen, and Ricardo Castrolado is able to get by Jake Hewlett. Sorry for the name mix-up there. Hugo, our producer, is telling me the wrong names and making me sound bad on air. Ricardo Castrolado, though, now leads from Jake Hewlett. And Jose Maria Lopez again into corners number 6 and 7, forcing it side by side with Joni Häkkinen. He's actually going to get the undercut, too, on exit into corners number 8 and 9. On the right side, you see that Vortex Sim Racing McLaren of Jose Maria Lopez. Black Star defends on the left-hand side of the racetrack, and Jose's going to go through. He took a big bite of curb, though, and Jose's going to get very loose. I was wondering if he might have a black flag. Didn't actually get one, but very loose. And Häkkinen is going to drop off the back. I think he doesn't want to be part of this over-aggressive battle just yet. So now what's going to happen? As those 2 fights for the position get themselves figured out, Jake Hewlett has actually dropped off the back of Ricardo Castrolado. Jose Maria Lopez as well runs from Joni Häkkinen. Into the final chicane, Jose continuing to stretch that gap. Wanting to close in on Jake Hewlett and that Bushwink 4 GT out in front. Lead battles continuing to stay relatively calm, but third and fourth place group of Santeri and Joni Täkkinen aren't letting Isaac Price skip away. Freddie last time by a 31.9, Isaac a 32.2, Joni a 32.3, Santeri a 32.2. So these final 3 drivers in your top 4, all very close in terms of speed. Quick right and a quick left. Through corners number 8 and 9 and down towards the hairpin for Isaac Price. Joni Täkkinen. I think actually Santeri is much closer this time than he has been a while. If he can close a little bit on the brakes and get a good launch out of that hairpin, I actually think Kulunki might be able to make a move here down this back straightaway. But no, Täkkinen's just, I think, too good on the exit. That McLaren just doesn't seem to have the mechanical grip coming off the corner. That's where the Fords are finding all their space. The McLarens are definitely quicker down this straightaway. I mean, Santeri's 6, 7, 8 miles an hour quicker at this part of the racetrack. However, just going through the hairpin, that 4 GT gets such a good run off the corner. And actually, Joni's going to hiccup. And this is going to be Santeri Kulunki's chance. He's been providing pressure for countless laps now. To the left side of the racetrack goes Santeri Kulunki in that Course Sim Racing McLaren. Hard on the brakes into corner number 1. Santeri on the inside, but he'll be on the outside for corner number 2. And Joni Täkkinen just able to hold on for now. keeping track of the battle behind. Ricardo Castelletto, a 32.1. Jake Hewlett, a 32.7. Jose Maria Lopez, a 32.3. Joni Häkkinen, a 32.3. So Jake Hewlett is losing about 4/10 a lap or so to the McLaren out in front of him and to the McLarens behind him. Jose through corners number 6 and 7. Giving that wall on the left-hand side a little bit of a kiss, and that's something you have to do at this racetrack to be quick. There's a few sections of the track where you're going to be right up against the wall. Not a lot of runoff here, and that's why I always say that this track feels and drives a lot like a street circuit, because you're driving right next to walls on corner exit. It is technically a purpose-built racetrack. It is not actually a street circuit, but it does drive a lot like one. Jose coming out of that chicane again. Excuse me, that hairpin again. I keep calling it a chicane. Let's see if the gap comes down to Jake Hewlett anymore this next time around. Santeri not quite close enough to Tekkonen to put the moves on this time around. As you watch him through the chicane, Joni's actually another one as well, not really risking it on the sausage curbs. Going now to the 14.11, that's Nito Nascimento and Jere Pakkanen. A close fight. Actually, as Hugo wants me to watch this battle, pit stops are starting. Nito Nascimento on the pit road. So that's the first car we've seen come down pit lane, and pit entry is actually something that's interesting here on this racetrack, because you don't turn off the racetrack. You actually just go straight on while the track itself actually turns. Pit entry at Zolder is similar, and because of that, it is actually quickest to pit when you have no cars out in front of you. Watching now the 5 and the 19. This is Thomas Gibson and Andrew Rodriguez. Actually, Thomas Gibson seems to have had an incident. This is down in corner number 1. What's happened to him? Thomas Gibson simply just lost that car all on his own, it looks like, through corners number 1 and 2. So a spin around there, and Thomas Gibson's going to get that car back pointed the right direction and going out there on the racetrack. Still an unfortunate incident for him, but pit entry here. You want to hit the pit lane when you have clear track out in front of you. So if you're in a battle, for example, if you're Santeri Kalinki, you need to hope that Joni Häkkinen pits first, because if he doesn't, you're going to be compromised if you go down on pit entry, assuming you want to come down earlier. So actually, I mean, if you're Joni Häkkinen, you want to delay your pit entry as long as you can. But Santeri, I actually think, has been doing a little bit of fuel saving while he's been in the draft of that Glacier Racing 4 GT. Third and fourth, down the front straight and across the line, starting lap number 13. Into corners number 1 and 2. And Joni gets a little bit loose on entry, and that's going to bring Santeri just that little bit closer. And again, loose on the exit is Joni Häkkinen. So he has his hands full of that Glacier Racing 4 GT, whereas Santeri just looks like he's just cruising behind. He's providing the pressure, but he's just looking much easier. And actually, Joni, again, tapping that wall on the right-hand side. Santeri is just sitting there behind that Glacier Racing 4, just providing the pressure. Knows that chances are he can't just YOLO a move and get it done, so just sit here, be patient, save a bit of gas, either force Joni into a mistake, or maybe hop him in the pit lane. Into corners number 8 and 9, under the bridge, down to second or third gear depending on the car, and Joni's playing a little bit nicer with the walls do there on exit. Santeri's very close as they go into the hairpin now for the 13th time. And again, just the torque of that Ford gets Joni Häkkinen in that little bit of space over Santeri Kalinki that he needs in order to defend down this long back straightaway. Santeri closes, but not quite able to get there. Both of them hard on the brakes and into the final chicane. Again, Joni Häkkinen gets loose, and again, Santeri Kalinki uses the curbs where Joni Häkkinen just doesn't. Santeri looks to the inside a little bit, but a mere harassment, but not nearly close enough yet to get that job done. So they stay as they are for this time around. Ricardo Castelletto has broken free from Jake Hewlett, and here in just a couple minutes, Hewlett is going to have his mirror full of Jose Maria Lopez. The 25 and the 21 are in a battle. That's Craig Kirkwood and Santeri Häkkinen. And actually, Kirkwood hits pit lane. Thomas Gibson also hits pit lane after his spin. So my producer keeps telling me about battles, and then they just end as people come down pit road. The 21 was Santeri Häkkinen, and he continues out there on the racetrack. pitters are Craig Kirkwood, like I said, and Thomas Gibson. Another car in the pit lane behind. That's Lars Reinke in one of the Mercedes. So, pit stop starting shortly here, as it seems. Frederik Rasmussen through the hairpin now for the 14th time. Isaac Price continuing to do his best to stretch the gap over Joni Täkkinen. When will the pit stop start? We're over halfway now at this point in the race, and because of that, pit stops are going to start to be what all these drivers are thinking about. OP Freddy seems to have hit the pit lane, so he's the first of your leaders to blink. Isaac Price is going to go another time, and that's interesting. Joni Täkkinen goes another time, as does Santeri Kalunki. So Frederick, the first down pit lane, was there maybe lap traffic out in front of him? No, but there actually are cars coming off of pit road, so that may have been a very wise move by Frederik Rasmussen. Lars Reinke in a Mercedes just came off of pit road, and if your leaders stay out like this, it's not out of the question that they may get caught up in some lap traffic coming off of pit lane. But because of that, by Frederick coming down just that little bit sooner, he guarantees himself some clean air to come down pit lane. Going to be interesting, though, to see what's Isaac Price able to do. Going these extra laps, will he be able to save enough gas to maybe close down that gap to the leader of Fred Rasmussen? Behind, Täkkinen still has his mirrors full of Kalunki. And actually, quite a few people actually pit that time around, it seems. Jose Maria Lopez is in the pit lane, as is Jiri Päkkinen. As was Andre Rodriguez. So, multiple battles hitting the pit lane at this point. And Jose Maria Lopez, it looks to me, actually lost quite a bit of ground. Not sure what the pit stop time was, but he's coming out around people that were just there much longer than much quicker than he was. It was a 31-second stop, which to me sounds long. Maybe a speeding penalty. You don't need 30 seconds of fuel for this race. So Jose Maria Lopez, someone who's having a very strong run, I think cost himself maybe a good finish by speeding. The leaders, though, all coming down pit road. Isaac Price, Täkkinen, Kalunki, Castrolato, Hewlett, Heikkinen. Basically, everyone who hasn't pit yet hitting pit lane on this lap. And where's OP Freddy? Freddy's coming through the final chicane. My, Freddy is aggressive over those curbs. Much braver than I would be, as Isaac Price is in his box, and here comes Fred Rasmussen into corner number 1. He's going to get clear for now, but the pit exit here is somewhat unique in terms of when you can come out. Actually, Isaac Price, both the Court Sim Racing cars come out in second and third. So the order for the race now, we have a change of position. Frederik Rasmussen still leads. Isaac Price comes out second. Santeri Kalunki comes out third. Joni Täkkinen comes out fourth. Ricardo Castrolato fifth. Jake Hewlett in sixth. Joni Häkkinen in seventh. Täkkinen loses that spot to Santeri like I hypothesized. Santeri saving the gas, having the shorter stop. And Isaac Price actually lost a lot of ground on that pit lane compared to both Santeri and Joni. So, what's the fight going to be now, Court Sim Racing? Are Isaac and Santeri going to play nice? Or are they going to fight for that second spot over the course of this race? Frederik still a comfortable lead out in front. Frederik's just going into the hairpin now, as second, third, fourth are all now just going under that Dodge Dart Racing bridge. Through the hairpin, as the order goes, Core, Glacier, Bushwing, no, excuse me, Radicals, Bushwing, Black Star, Dito Nascimento, Core again, and Bushwing. Or apparently Bushfink. So, sorry to Bushfink for mixing up. But actually, I think Price does not get a good run through that final chicane, and because of that, Santeri had to check up through the middle of it, and you saw Santeri get real sideways going through your wall of champions of the chicane. And actually, we've not yet seen anyone get into that wall of champions yet over the course of this race. You saw that issue at the start, but that wasn't your traditional wall of champions sort of problem. It was just over-eagerness by some trying to get moves done. 15 minutes left in this race is what it was when they came across the stripe. So over half distance now. Isaac Price continues to have his mirror full of his teammate of Santeri Kalunki. One has to say they're probably going to work together to try to lock out this podium. The 26 and the 8 having a good fight. This is Andres Rau and Zach Thomas into corner number 1. Through corner number 2, and Zach's very close. There may have been a little bit of contact there. Both cars kind of wiggled a little bit, but I didn't hear a contact. They go into corners number 3 and 4 now for the 17th time. Andrew's one of the stronger running Audis in this field. Actually, where is the strongest running Audi? Strongest running Audi is actually just in front of him, and that's Philip Ellis. So Zach Thomas is going to have the top speed advantage over this Audi when they get to this final long back straightaway. Zach's doing a good job to actually close in. He was 4/10 quicker last time around on the lap, and that tells me that Zach is going to want to get a move done. He's going to want to get it quickly. He wants to set his sights on the next Audi out in front of Philip Ellis. Down this back straightaway they come. Not quite close enough in the draft is Zach Thomas. Down this back straightaway. Having that little bit of toe from Philip Ellis out in front is really helping him. Hard on the brakes into your Wall of Champions chicane, and Zach's actually get loose, and I just said it. He gets into your Wall of Champions here, so a little bit of commentator's curse from me there. So, Zach Thomas, the first car we've seen, hit that Wall of Champions chicane, and that's going to cost him not only time, but any damage is going to be disaster for him. Keeping track of your battle out in front, though, as that battle gets somewhat calmed down. Isaac Price still has Santeri Kalunki and Joni Takinen for company as they come through corners number 8 and 9. Into the hairpin they come. Isaac and Santeri actually run very different lines through there. Isaac holds the whole corner just in general tighter. He turns in sooner, tighter at the apex, and he holds the exit a little bit tighter as well. Santeri a little bit more liberal with his track usage. It's interesting to see that with those two differences in line that they're both more or less the same. Neither of them really gaining or losing time on the other. It's just, I think, different taste. So, down this front straightaway again. The gap remains at it stretches out to 8.2 seconds from first to second place. Second, third, and fourth still very tight. Ricardo Castrolato is doing everything he can to reel in the cars that are in front of him. He needs them to start fighting a little bit more, though. I don't think he has the raw pace, not in the final 12 or so minutes of this race, to catch Joni Takinen, Santeri Kalunki, and Isaac Price. Getting word that Zach Thomas actually did receive damage from that incident with the wall, so that's unfortunate for him. Actually looking, Zach Thomas is off the racetrack, so that could be day done for that 8 Radicals machine. So that's extraordinarily unfortunate. Going to drop him well down the order because we've not had a lot of incidents here today. Into the hairpin goes this second and third place battle again. Actually, the line has somewhat changed again between Santeri and Isaac. Both of them using different parts of the racetrack through that hairpin, and it just seems to basically equal out. They've done a good job, though, to gap Joni Takinen. Joni has dropped back about a full second off of Santeri Kalunki, and because of that, he will still be feeling the draft from that McLaren out front. But just due to the speed differential between the Ford and the McLaren, and just because Santeri has Isaac directly in front of them, Joni's not going to be getting a lot of drafts, so he's going to have to find all of his time through the rest of the racetrack. But last time around, he was 2/10 slower than both cars out in front. And actually, you want to talk about teammates working together. Isaac Price, 32.725. Santeri Kalunki, 32.725. So identical lap time for the two Corse Sim racing teammates in second and third. Frederick, meanwhile, did a casual 32.451. Casually 3/10 quicker than his teammates. Through corners number 6 and 7, Isaac comes. Santeri very close to the wall on exit. 17 and the 10, having a very good fight. That's Carlos Enrique Scalraza and Mike Jesus. Meek is actually the best running BMW, I believe, out here in this field in 21st. I'll check that in a second, but very close on the brakes was Mika into corner number 1, but not quite able to get it done. What about into corner number 3, though? He had a bit of a run, was looking on the inside, but didn't quite get the job done. Into corners number 3 and 4 now for the 20th time for them. And actually, no, I take that back. Craig Parks is the best running BMW in the Bushfink Racing BMW Z4. As I say that, we have another change of position. Nito Nascimento gets passed by Jiri Pakinen going into the hairpin, so move another Course Sim Racing McLaren up a spot. Second place battle continues to stay hot. And I'm really interested to see actually what Santeri Kalinki is going to do. Because Core would definitely love to lock out the podium here. That would be a huge achievement for them. But you have to say, Santeri would love to say that he beat his teammate of Isaac Price. Seven and the 13 and the 8 is starting to heat up. That's Xavier Sanchez, Craig Parks, and Jose Maria Lopez. And Jose Maria Lopez, I think, just got through all of them. So Jose Maria Lopez just put the moves on 2 different cars into corner number 1. But as they say that, Jose, not a good exit. And because of that, Xavier Sanchez in that Ford GT able to slip out back in front. Jose, though, taking slightly different lines, trying to undercut Jose. As they go through the long right-hander at turn number 5 and into corners number 6 and 7. Short run into corner number 8. Jose, we know, is aggressive. And he'll put the move on if he thinks it's on. And he thinks it's on. He looks to the inside going into corner number 8, but Xavier Sanchez able to hold it off for now. Jose not quite able to get it done. And because of that, because he compromised his line so much, Xavier Sanchez able to just stretch the gap just that little bit. Craig Parks, though, still lurking behind in his BMW with Andrew Rodriguez in the McLaren. Jose gets a good run coming off that hairpin down this long back straightaway, and let's see what the top end is like between this Ford GT and this McLaren. We've seen in other parts of the field, they've been roughly equivalent. However, Jose, I think, is looking much pacier than that Ford GT driven by Sanchez out in front of him. Side by side for the next position behind, though, Andrew Rodriguez gets the move done on Craig Parks going into that final, those final 2 corners. Not surprised, the McLaren jumping that BMW down the back straight. Jose's on the inside of Xavier Sanchez. They go into corner number 1, and Jose's going to get that move done for now. He's going to hold on to it. So move Jose Maria Lopez back into your top 10. Keeping track out in front. And Santeri Kalinki and Isaac Price continue to gap Joni Tekken. And actually, Isaac Price that last time around put a pretty good gap over Santeri Kalinki. Actually, no, it happened somewhere this lap. Last time, like again, the laps were basically the same. Both laps within 1/100th of a second for the 2 Course Sim Racing drivers. Meanwhile, going back to this battle for the top 10, Jose's done a good job to get away from Xavier Sanchez. Sanchez, however, is going to have his hands full very quickly with both Andrew Rodriguez and the Odox Racing McLaren MP4 and Craig Parks in the Bushfink Racing BMW. '11th, 12th, and 13th now, down this long back straightaway. And it looks like Rodriguez isn't going to be quite close enough to get the move done. You see him flashing the lights at Sanchez out in front of him. Actually, Sanchez is going to clip the wall of champions, and unfortunately, Rodriguez was just too close and he wasn't able to slip by because of it. So now, what is Craig Parks going to do? He has a run on Andrew Rodriguez out in front, but I think he realizes that if he tries to get the move on, that McLaren's simply going to jump him down the back straightaway again. So because of that, he doesn't really try to get a move done. Craig didn't have a compromise exit like Rodriguez did because of Sanchez. So I think patience is what that BMW driver behind is thinking with. Into corners number 6 and 7. Sanchez trying to stretch the gap however he can. Jose Maria Lopez trying to reel in Nito Nascimento. However, last time by, those 2 laps were basically equivalent. Jose was just a little under a tenth quicker, but he's not going to reel him in going just a tenth quicker. They are 4 seconds apart on the racetrack. Xavier Sanchez under attack, though, from Andrew Rodriguez going into the hairpin. To the left goes the Ford, and up the inside goes the McLaren. Sanchez, I think, gives it to him. He wants to try to get the exit, but Andrew Rodriguez did a good job trying to cut off the line to cut off the undercut, but he got loose on the exit. Because of that compromises exit speed. Down the back straightaway they come. Ford drafting McLaren. And the Ford got the better exit, and he's going to look to the right-hand side of the racetrack. Onto the brakes into corners number 12 and 13. The Ford has the inside, but Andrew just able to outbrake Xavier Sanchez, and he's able to get to the apex of the final part of the chicane. Very, very brave driving from Andrew Rodriguez. If Sanchez had dedicated himself to the corner, that could have been a pretty big incident. However, I think Xavier Sanchez realized that Andrew Rodriguez was going to do that. Because of it, he backed out of the move just a little bit. Craig Parks, you see flashing the lights in front, just saying, come on, boys, get on with it. Santeri Kalunki has reeled in Isaac Price. I'm not sure if this was an incident or just raw pace, but Santeri's all over the back of his teammate. And actually, Isaac, a very wide entry through the hairpin, and they get into each other actually at the apex. Santeri flashing the lights at his teammate, saying, come on, Isaac, get on with it. Down the back straightaway they come. Teammate versus teammate. 4 minutes to go when Frederick crossed the line. There's just a handful of laps left. And Santeri's looking pacier than Isaac Price. Now that they've got that Glacier Racing 4 GT, they're having at it. Santeri goes to the right side of the racetrack. Isaac defends to the left. He has the apex at turn 1, but he pushes too wide. Santeri tries to work the undercut, but actually that was beautiful by Isaac. The way he took turn 1, braking so late, he's able to get himself to the apex of turn number 2. That was one of the best defensive moves I think I've seen on this racetrack in a long time. I thought for sure that Santeri was going to be able to sweep around the outside there. Into corners 6 and 7. Isaac doing everything he can to stretch the gap. He doesn't want to give Santeri... He wants to give Santeri as little draft as possible as they come down this back straightaway for the 25th time. Through 8 and 9. Quick run down to the hairpin. I think if Santeri's going to make the move, it's going to be either through corner number 1 or it'll be into corners number 12 and 13. I think Santeri realizes that he doesn't want to let that Glacier Racing 4 GT behind back in on the battle, and because of that, those are the 2 parts of the racetrack where you can go side by side and arguably lose the least amount of time. Down the back straightaway they come. And Santeri not quite close enough to be able to get to Isaac just yet into corners number 12 and 13. They both get good runs through the chicane, so I don't think there'll be a move on this time. And I believe this is actually going to be the white flag lap here. Because my timing actually isn't working. Frederick Rasmussen actually clips the wall through corner number 5. The final lap here for Isaac and Santeri Kalunki. So who's it going to be? Filling out the rest of that second spot on the podium. We know it's going to be Core unless there's an incident, and I have to say there likely won't be an incident. Isaac and Santeri are both smart enough to not let that happen. But will it be Santeri Kalunki or will it be Isaac Price? I have to say, if Santeri is going to get the job done, he has to be closer than he currently is. Frederick currently is braking for the hairpin. Through corners number 8 and 9 come the 2 Corson Racing teammates. Santeri closed that gap just a little bit, but this is where he has to be perfect. He needs to let Isaac stretch it on the brakes just a little bit here. Santeri needs to get all his speed on the exit. He doesn't want to get a situation where he has to let off the gas for Isaac. I think he actually did it right, but he just didn't get the exit quite good enough. He caught a little bit of oversteer. Frederick throw through the wall of champions of chicane for the final time. And OP Freddy stays OP in round number 10 here at Montreal, claiming a comfortable victory by about 13 or so seconds. Isaac and Santeri, though, into the final chicane, and Isaac gets a good run through. Santeri not able to get the job done. So Isaac is going to be second as they come across the stripe, and Santeri's flashing the lights at him in third. Joni Takinen in fourth, and Ricardo Castroleda, who's actually very close. That was the battle we lost track of. Was very close to taking that fourth spot away from Joni Takinen. Other battles coming through. For the most part, everyone relatively spread out. We have a battle for 17th and 18th on the racetrack, though. Jesus Saves and Santeri Kekkonen. Down the back straightaway they come. They have a couple cars for position out in front of them, but they won't quite get that close. Hard on the brakes they come, and that Audi behind of Santeri Kekkonen closes on the brakes, but not enough, and because of that, Jesus Saves is going to comfortably take that 17th spot. And that pretty much does it for battles out there on the racetrack. Isaac and Fred are having a bit of a photo op moment, and it seems to me that Kalunki's like, Kalunki doesn't have any interest in that. Now as we go down, your official results here from round number 10, your Blancpain Sprint Series from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada. Core Sim Racing, what a race it was for them. 3 cars on the podium, and another car and Jari Pakkanen in the top 10. Fredrik Rasmussen comes away with the win. Isaac Price second, Santeri Kalunki in third. Joni Takinen rounds out the fourth spot with Ricardo Castroleda rounding out the top 5. Jake Hewlett and Joni Häkkinen 6th and 7th. Jari Pakkanen in 8th, one of the other core sim racing drivers in this race. 9th was Nito Nascimento, and 10th was Jose Maria Lopez. But Maria Lopez probably frustrated with that considering where he was running before he got that black flag on pit road. Andrew Rodriguez was the only non-qualifier in this race. Started this 28th, pushed himself up to the 11th spot. So big race from Rodriguez. Zaber Sanchez in 12th. Craig Parks 13th. 14th, Philip Ellis. Ivan Carmona in 15th. Andres Rao 16th. Jesus Says 17th. Santeri Kekkonen 18th. Carlos Henrique Scalarzara 18th. Mika Jesus 19th. Craig Kirkwood rounds out the 21st spot. Lars Ranke 22nd, Patrick Morrow 23rd, Antti Terho 24th, Zach Thomas 25th, Thomas Gibson 26th, 27th Jan Kuipers, and 28th was Marcus Lovett. We actually have one Jake Hewlett here joining us. We don't usually do post-race interviews, but we got one today, and he's going to be joining us in the booth here shortly. Jake, it was a good run for you out there today. First thing I need to get straight, how do you pronounce your team name? I said it one way and everyone was yelling about it in the comments.
Thanks, dude. It's Team Bushthink Racing.
Bush, say it again?
Team Bushthink Racing.
Okay. Let it be known, I will probably mispronounce that for life, but that's okay because everyone calls me Chinworth when there's no R in my last name. But I'll try to get it right, I promise. But 6th on the grid, 6th coming to the line, Jake. Relatively straightforward race for you. How's the balance of performance? There's a lot of McLarens out there running strong. How did the Ford stack up?
Yeah, I think the Ford done really well. It's generally a lot easier to drive, and it was second over the it was faster, sorry, over the second stint. So I was hoping to gain some time back after the pits. However, just made too many mistakes, really. I was trying to let Castrolado straight back past me because I knew he had a better pace. Unfortunately, he didn't go for the early opportunity I gave him, but he was steaming on very well.
Now, just talking about that group of drivers you race with, I mean, Bushthink, now that I actually know how to pronounce the name, I mean, I've seen them in a lot of races here, and, you know, getting away from Race Spot a little bit. What are you guys doing in terms of Blancpain and the pro qualifiers? Are you guys attempting to get a team into that big series next season, or are you guys somewhat standing out from that?
We were looking into doing it, and we still are. We've unfortunately had a member who can no longer do it. However, we are looking to hopefully do it this year, yes.
Well, good luck to you guys then with finding a new member and hopefully getting in on the races, because the quali season, of course, started last week at Monza, and round 2 is later this weekend at Silverstone, so need to get those points in. So good luck to you guys, hopefully getting something quickly. Congratulations on the strong finish in the Friday soft race. Any shout outs? Anyone you'd like to thank?
Thanks again. I won't do any self-advertisement. I'll just say thank you to everyone who keeps supporting me. And thank you to Team Bushfink Racing and everyone else. Grats to Core Motorsports on winning. They're an awesome team. Likewise with Radicals Online and Glacier and Inex. And I'm sure there's a bunch of others. But just thank you to everyone who supports me. And thank you for having me.
Well, no problem, Jake. And since he doesn't want to support himself, twitch.tv/YouTubeBiggs, or YTBiggs is what it says above the windscreen. So I think that's where people can go to watch more of Jake Hewlett. But Jake, you have a good afternoon. We're going to get this show closed out.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks again, guys. Awesome broadcast, honestly. Take care, dudes.
Always. So thanks for joining us, Mr. Jake Hewlett, and thanks to all the viewers for hopping in for round number 10 of your Blancpain Sprint Series here from Montreal. If you want GT3 action, well, there's a lot more of it happening this weekend. Sunday, tune into GSRC for round number 2 of your Blancpain GT qualifiers from Silverstone. Teams like Inex, Coanda, Chimera, and a lot of others, Mad Cow, Husaria, there's a lot of competitive teams fighting for 28 grid spots on your Blancpain GT Pro Championship next season. And of course, tune over to Apex TV. They bring you the Road to Pro qualifiers for that iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And of course, on Tuesday nights, LSR TV for the Road to Pro for your NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. I've been Randy Chineth, all alone for this 40-minute race from Montreal. Hugo Louis on the cameras. Hope to see you guys next week as we kick off the round number 11 of the Blancpain Sprint Series from Silverstone Historic. Hope to see you guys then. Have a good night. Bye-bye.